back to speak more on this, I do want to bring in criminal defense attorney Michael Gottlieb. Michael, we do appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
So I wanted to start with this. Of course, Mangione and his attorneys are fighting extradition to New York City. When it comes to the legal process, specifically with extradition, are there any legal reasons why a judge would not allow this to happen?
No, I think there's no doubt that the Pennsylvania courts are going to extradite Mangione. It's really a matter of the governor of each state executing a warrant, and then the governor of Pennsylvania. So the governor of New York has to execute a warrant. The governor of Pennsylvania has to accept it. Right now, he's fighting it, which I think from a defense perspective is a smart move. He's slow rolling what may happen to him in New York. I mean, let's get a little perspective. This is moving very fast. It's just now coming up on a week. So I think it makes sense to make the government jump through their hoops in order to bring him back to New York.
And talking about this, making, lawmakers, making officials jump through hoops, does that allow additional time for his attorneys to build their own case? Is that why they might be fighting extradition?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the reasons that you would want to do it. You want to build a team in New York. I don't know if he has one yet. You want to build a team in Pennsylvania where you also have criminal charges. You want to start to get witnesses or an alibi. Let's not forget, he's innocent until proven guilty. And a lot of people on both sides of the fence, some are saying he's innocent and some are condemning him already. We haven't seen any evidence yet of his guilt other than a person who looks like him, perhaps, in a hoodie at or near the scene. And we don't even know if that's him. So if it were me in charge of the case, I would be doing the same thing.
So let's talk about this, because you brought it up that he's facing different charges in Pennsylvania versus New York City. Would they try him on the more serious charges, of course, in New York City before they go back to Pennsylvania? Is that what the thought process is?
There's reasons to do both. So New York may say, you know what, we need some time to build our case. You guys keep him. We're going to perfect our warrant to extradite him. But we want you to go ahead, move forward on your case. He was in possession of a ghost gun and what other crimes they want. And then they can use those as what are called aggravating factors to continue to deny him bond or to seek that mandatory life sentence that they're seeking in New York for murder in the second degree. Once he has convictions in Pennsylvania, he becomes a convicted felon. It makes it harder for him to testify. His credibility perhaps goes down in the eyes of many people. So there's reasons to do it that way, or there's reasons for New York to come in and saying, look, we want to get him now. We've got the more serious case. We've got a lot of evidence, and this is what the public in New York wants to see. So let us have him now. It could go either way.
And let's talk about the evidence you were mentioning right now. I would have to imagine that investigators still combing through a lot of that evidence. You also mentioned this has been happening very quickly. I would imagine, given the severity of the charges, that prosecutors would want to meticulously go through all of the evidence that they have, make sure that they have a very buttoned up case before they present it. And also, I would imagine that investigators and prosecutors are being very careful in terms of the process and how they do this, because you don't want to perhaps miss a step and then have that, become against you later on down the line, as we have seen in some of these high profile cases.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this case is the prosecutors, as you were saying, need to be on their A game. This is an individual defendant who comes from significant family money. So you have to understand he's probably going to have the resources to hire the best of counsel. He's an unlikely suspect. He doesn't need the money to have insurance problems. If he was denied an insurance problem, which is an epidemic that many Americans are seeing today, and therefore many are drawn to him as sort of their vigilante hero in this, but he doesn't need the insurance. He doesn't need, if he had a problem, he could have paid for it. So he's kind of an unlikely suspect. So they're going to need to really piece together their case as to why he did this. Is he a lone guy like Ted Krasinski that he supposedly likes and has been drawn to his writings? Why did he do this, and they don't have to prove motive. But for somebody like him, they're going to need to connect the dots that he was in New York, he fled for whatever reason, used fake IDs, went from hotel to hotel to try to show that that is conscious evidence of guilt. But I think they'd be mistaken if they didn't try to prove why he did this or look at his manifesto. They're going to need to really piece together a good case.
And I wanted to ask you this because you were saying that a lot of the public might be drawn to him because they feel this connection when it comes to insurance issues. You know, we're looking at what's likely to be a jury trial. How might the emotional component of this influence the trial at all?
So anytime you have an emotional impact that you as a defense attorney can bring with you, you can get what we call a jury pardon. So the jury may feel he did it, but he was right in doing it. We're seeing a lot of vigilante justice these days. People are fed up. There's two different classes in America, and we all know that. There's the rich and the poor, and they're growing and growing and growing. And many Americans, and we just saw it in this last election cycle, are concerned about insurance, whether it's medical insurance or property insurance. So, you know, I think many Americans are drawn to him, and he's getting already sort of a martyr type following that he did what a lot of Americans are thinking of doing or could have done or wanted to do because they've been denied coverage repeatedly by these insurance companies. And then you look at how much the people at the top are making, you know, 10 and 20 million dollars for denying that coverage. Many people think that he's a hero.
And I think that that's also something that prosecutors have to take in mind. We have seen in certain trials that this emotional component does sway the jury when it comes to, of course, you have to take a look at the evidence, but it could also turn into perhaps a lesser charge. And we've seen that play out in recent cases as well. Michael, as we take a look at all of these developments, and this is still in the very early stages right here, is there anything that you're keeping a very close eye on when it comes to developments?
You know, not really. There's obviously a strategy that we discussed in terms of him trying to stay in Pennsylvania. What I would want to be doing is hiring a private investigator and digging up as much evidence I could, you know, from the defense perspective to try to show an alibi, to try to show that he wasn't there, to try to show that whatever writings that he has had, while they might be on the fringe, does not make him a murderer. If we look at the people who he went to high school with, and he went to a boarding school and to college, everybody says this is completely unexpected. So I'd start to build that kind of evidence and show this is not the person who we think he is.
And again, we're still in the very early stages, but at this point in time, you know, you were mentioning, we've been hearing from former classmates, former roommates, people who knew him saying that this is not the person who they knew and this is completely out of character. Do you think at this point, given the fact that so many people are sympathetic to him right now, that he might take the stand?
Most criminal defendants don't, but he's different. He's wealthy. He's intelligent. He's not disenfranchised by the insurance companies. So you know, it's way too early to call that, but I wouldn't doubt that he has the ability to do it and be convincing.
All right, Michael, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.